appreciate this intro. You know, I was born here in Selma. Uh, was born, in fact, in the Good Samaritan Hospital building, and um, grew up here in Selma. Attended. Right now, I'm going to see if I can tell you some things that you don't even know. Um, actually, attended Knox Kindergarten. Also attended Trinity Lutheran Academy, first through the fourth grade. Attended Payne Elementary School, fifth and sixth grade. Attended Clark in the seventh grade. Eighth, ninth, and 10th grade, I attended R.B. Hudson. In 11th grade, I attended A.G. Parrish. And 12th grade was in the first graduating class of Selma High, 1971. So I am a product of Selma City Schools. I have, and in fact, from a cross section of neighborhoods. When I finished high school, I went off to Alabama A&M University, earned a degree in mathematics, excuse me, concentration.
Can you repeat that last statement? We're having some internet issues, and I didn't hear what you said about, I think you said something about Selma University?
No, I attended, when I finished the Selma City Schools, I attended the college at Alabama A&M University, where I earned a degree in mathematics with a concentration in computer science. When I finished my undergraduate studies, I was hired by Caterpillar Tractor Company, a Fortune 500, and I was hired as a computer programmer. I served as a computer programmer with them, went from there to Martin Marietta. The company now is Lockheed Martin. So it's aerospace engineering. I did software engineering with them. In fact, I did project management. I went all the way through project management. My project management skill set was developed with that company. When I left that company, I opened my own business and operated that business really as a consultant initially. And while I was doing consulting, I moved back to Selma and started working on a master's, an MBA at Auburn University in Montgomery. And as I worked on that degree, I actually started putting together a plan for a small business that I really wanted to develop and build. That business became Business Ventures. I ended up starting that business with $50. Had my first office in a corner in my uncle Sanford Smith's Smith Florist. Connected a phone and got business cards, got a business license from the city and started the business. Operated as a consultant for a while doing, believe it or not, fund accounting designs and systems integration work for UNCF HBCUs, UNCF and Kellogg Foundation HBCUs. It really was Kellogg Foundation grant funded that project, and I was doing design work and fund accounting systems for historically Black colleges and universities across the nation. When I went from the consulting on that piece to actually growing the business, developed a client.
Yeah, participated in it last time, man. It was pretty good.
Oh, you participated the last time? Yeah, that sounds kind of different. You know what I mean? You know, that's a much different thing. We have been joined by Mayor Perkins, Jr., the incumbent mayor here in Selma. He was giving us his background, and before he picks up on it, there was one thing I found. You're right. There's some things I didn't know. Were you able to get we connected? Is
Yeah,
your
I'm
signal
connected.
better?
I don't know how to set it up yet, but I am connected. But go ahead, Randy. We'll figure this out.
Well, what I'll do is I'll take a break. I have another device
Okay.
that I can do for you. I'll tell you what. Let me do that first because I don't want you to have to do that.
Yeah.
Let's take a real quick break, and when we come back, we'll be with Mayor Perkins in just a moment. Now, no one can ever accuse us of not having ever worked together, huh? We are back. We're back on the air after some challenges there. Well, anyway. So before you continue on,
My mic is good.
Oh, you're good. Yes,
Okay,
sir.
excellent,
Everything's
excellent.
fine. Okay.
All right.
All right.
We're settling in, guys. Here we go. Here we go.
Boy, I tell you, you said a few things I didn't really think about until you mentioned the fact that you went to Knox,
Yeah.
Parish,
Yes.
and Selma High the first year of its existence.
That's right. And,
So that's a pretty interesting historic.
Yeah.
Those are three historic institutions.
That's right. I attended Knox Kindergarten. Attended Lutheran Academy.
And I forgot, and Lutheran, yeah.
And I attended there first through fourth grade. And fifth, sixth grade at Payne. Fourth, fifth, and sixth grade at Payne. And no, I'm sorry, fifth and sixth grade at Payne. And then seventh grade at Clark. And then we did eighth, ninth,
Boy.
and 10th grade at R.B. Hudson.
Goodness, you went there all the schools then.
And see, with the R.B. Hudson situation, I ended up being zoned to attend Parish High in my 11th grade year. So I attended Parish High in 11th grade year. And then in my 12th grade year, I was in the first graduating class at Selma High.
So what was that like in terms of, the racial dynamics and making I'm sure it was a lot more intense in what year was that, 70, 71?
69, 70 in my junior year, and senior year 70, 71.
That should have been pretty intense.
Well, it was interesting to say the least. I was actually on the basketball team in Paris. I ran track.
Well, now, how many blacks were there on the Paris basketball team?
Very few. I think I may have been the first to hit 2 points.
See, I didn't know that. Okay, go ahead.
So, there's a lot of history there. I want us to get to the meat of what people really want to know about, because we've been getting this set up for a minute. But I guess the bottom line, you were asking about my career, and I was sharing, how I worked for a couple of Fortune 500s corporations to get mine.
You said you had done you started your business with $50.
Yep, and ended up doing over $1 million in sales in that business, and divested, got out of it, and decided to come home and serve people. So when I came home with a vast amount of experience and knowledge that was directly related to the work of serving Jamaica. I had done federal, state grants. I had
14. Now, no one can ever accuse us of not having ever worked together, huh? And the but
did a significant amount of damage.
A lot of damage. But the good news is money came in. In fact, it's the first time that since we've been having people come to Selma for photo ops, that any money ever came back into Selma to help us. After all those powerful, we've had three presidents, but this was the first time we actually got something out of the deal. And in my opinion, it looked like it was because the people who were in position, directors and others, had an appreciation for Selma's history, and they pushed the button. Although President Biden did make the commitment and say that he was going to, commit the resources, but it's the first time that it happened, is my point. But other than that, so if it hadn't been for that, we still would be in dire straits, I would think.
Well, I want to go back. Let's go back. Let's just walk this thing through.
All right.
Because people want to know why is Selma the way we are.
Right.
I do have an opinion about that. I encourage people to go back to 1960. This was before the voting rights movement climaxed. We go back to 1960. Selma's population was its largest. I mean, we at the census data shows us over 28,000 people. Between 1960 and 2000, when I was initially elected to office, the population went from over 28,000 to 20,512. We lost 8,000 people between 1960 and 2000. I think we know the sequencing of things that happened. The movement happened, Craig closing as a consequence of all of that. The student protests, all those things happened. And so we lost 8,000 people. When I was initially elected in Selma, we were at 20,512. That was our population. When I left office in 2008, the next census was in 2010. The only time Selma's population has increased, we have grown as a community, was when James Perkins was mayor. Because the population went up from 2000 to 2010. We went up by a little over 1%, which means we stopped the hemorrhage, we stopped the decline, and the population turned up. I want to remind you of what took place in that period, Randy. We had 10 industries. We had Team Selma. We were running strong. Wayne, Dr. Mitchell, Senator Sanders, Perkins. We were at the table. Probate Judge Johnny Jones and Kim Ballard. We were at the table. We were Team Selma. We brought in 10 industries during that period. Created 2,000 jobs between 2000 and 2008. And the growth of Selma, we were on the incline, we were moving forward. I want to remind people that that's when your mayor, James Perkins, at that time, went to Korea, not once, went to Seoul and Ulsan, not once, but twice, to assist with the recruiting of Hyundai to Montgomery. Because, why? Because that was the closest location to Selma. And if they got that plant in Montgomery, we knew that we were going to be in a position to get suppliers. What happened? We ended up with Haniwa, Leukungshin, and Renaissance. We ended up with 300 suppliers. So our growth pattern was clearly defined. When James Perkins did not get re-elected in 2008, what we had, that's when we began to see a decline. I want to remind you of something, Randy. 2008, when I left office, the mall was filled with stores. Carver Boynton was the mall manager. It was booming, no space. In fact, Carver now manages what? The Summit in Birmingham. We had top talent, local top talent, running our mall, and it was booming. The stores downtown, Hibbett's, and all those buildings, most of those buildings were occupied. We had done a facade rebuild in the area, and we were moving forward swiftly with our economic development. The skating rink was still open. The bowling alley was still open when I left office. I want you to think about this. The Brown YMCA was still open. Children were swimming. There was a senior citizens program there. The Good Samaritan Hospital building was still open and occupied when I left office. Between the time that James Perkins left office in 2008 to the time that I was re-elected in 2020, everything that I just mentioned to you, the progress that we had made, was lost. The skating rink closed, the bowling alley closed, the Brown YMCA closed, the Good Samaritan Hospital building closed, the mall became referred to as a hall. All of this happened in that 12 years when James Perkins was not your mayor. And when I got back in office in 2020, this city was tore up from the floor. That's why the people actually voted for me to come back, because we needed to put Selma back together. And putting Selma back together meant a lot. It meant that we needed to, on the heels of Hurricane Zeta, which had just come through, tore the city apart, we were in the middle of COVID. We were 2 audits behind, contrary to what other people are saying. The 2017-18 audit was incomplete because no one wanted to sign off on it. We were able to complete that. The 19-20 audit, we had to get that finished and got that done. The first audit that officially served in was 2021. All of our audits are caught up. We ended up doing 3 audits in 2 years to get caught up. Once we got caught up, then we were eligible to regain an S&P rating. When I took office, when I took the oath of office, and when the new treasurer was hired by the council, when Terry Smith was hired, we did not have a Standard & Poor's rating. It had not been lowered, it had been taken. When I left office, it was an A. When I got back, we didn't have one. Since I've been back, we at least got an S&P rating. It's a B-, but we have actually gotten back into the game where we can actually begin to borrow money and strengthen our position financially in the marketplace. All of these things are important. See, because when you did, and now if you look at what has happened, Randy, you are absolutely right. This term in office has been a major change and transformation in the relationship that the city of Selma has with its partners in Washington and Montgomery. When I got back in office, we had 2 grants. Washington, and both of them were in trouble. Washington had shut us down. Montgomery was not issuing us any more money. All of that changed when James Perkins became your mayor again. We have great working relationships. Congresswoman Terry Sewell has been wonderful. But she would not, I can guarantee you, she would not have been advocating to get money to come into Selma if she was not confident in the administrative capacity that's at the desk right now. If you look at what the governor has done for Selma, all of her cabinet, ADM, ADECA, Department of Transportation, they have helped Selma tremendously. With that tornado, we didn't have a rating to be able to go out and borrow money from a payday lender. We could not have gotten the money to operate and to recover from a disaster. And so the governor, on your mayor's name, gave us $5 million, put a $5 million contract in place, state contract. We subcontracted with it because I made a commitment to Mr. Cooper and the Transportation Department that James Perkins would make sure, would guarantee that they would get their money back the moment we got reimbursed from the feds. When we got the money from the federal government, within 48 hours, the state had a check reimbursing them for every dime. We've kept our word. When the president came to Selma, and I had an opportunity to sidebar with him for just a little while, that sidebar conversation, one of the things I said to President Biden was this: so, Mr. President, with all due respect, if the war in Ukraine were to end today, that's when I made that statement to him. I said, the United States of America will rebuild Ukraine before you rebuild Selma. This was after the tornado. He heard me. Within a week, we had 8 members of his cabinet here in Selma saying, what do you need? The president told us to give y'all whatever you need. From that position, from that statement, from those relationships, we literally changed the way Washington responded to natural disasters in communities, not just Selma, but communities like Selma, micropolitan, small cities surrounded by large rural communities. We changed the formula and the strategy. Instead of money flowing in from Montgomery or from the state capital of these cities like ours, instead of us only being eligible to get community development block grant money from Washington directly, guess what? We formulated a strategy for money to come to the community through the Delta Regional Authority, through the regional authority. So that's a whole different kind of approach to disaster recovery. Whether that approach will remain in place during the Trump administration, I got no idea. What I know right now is we are still submitting applications to the Delta Regional Authority, and they are still considering those applications. We just submitted one 2 weeks ago, Randy, for three applications for over $8 million to do what? To resurface streets in our disaster area from Old Orville Road all the way to Marie Foster. This is no game that we're playing here. Selma has never had 80 city blocks resurfaced at one time. This has happened under the Perkins administration. I'm going to tell you something, Randy. What has happened here, what is happening with this administration is there are teams of people within the Water and Sewer Authority, teams of people in city government who are underappreciated, underpaid, and disrespected every day. On social media, people talk about them like a dog, but those folks are working really hard with not livable wages in many instances, doing the best they can to keep our community clean. And a lot of times people say, well, the mayor argued and fussed too much. Well, if I had not been arguing and fussing, we would never have moved the minimum pay for city employees in city government from $7.25 an hour to $12 an hour in the past 4.5 years. It took a lot of pushing and nugging and twisting to get that done. Are they being paid now at a livable wage? No, we're not. Are we fully staffed? No. A fully staffed public works is 65 people, Randy. We got 35. And everybody wants all the grass and all the right-of-ways, all the vacant lots and everything done and cleared. And it's just not possible to do that. We want all the potholes filled. Well, listen, we couldn't count the number of potholes we filled. So what we counted was the tonnage of asphalt we put in potholes. We put over 1,039 tons of asphalt. We put 260 truckloads of asphalt, 4 tons per truckload of asphalt on the streets of Selma. We patched so many potholes, and I'm gonna tell you something, Randy. I'm gonna tell you something. Now in social media, they go and find these potholes. The biggest one is on private property, and the city won't fix the pothole. That's on private property. And I'm gonna tell you what would happen. If we went and fixed the pothole, that they would call the ethics commission and say the city is working on private property. You know, listen. This is happening with the landfill. It happens when we demolish homes. We're out here trying to get these houses down, and every time we touch one that these people have their favorite special interest involved in, ADM, the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, gets a call. They find a little tweak or something in the law that we have to comply with. We then get an audit review. We have to stop doing the demolition to go back and answer ADM. This has been happening for the past 4 years, and people wondering, why is it that the mayor is so frustrated? That's why I'm frustrated. It's these people, the people that are out there doing this work, they really care about what they're doing. Right here on Philpott off of Broad Street, that was an illegal dump situation going on. I was calling people over the weekend. Listen, what is up with this? Well, they came in and cleaned it up at the beginning of the week. In 24 hours, the space was filled again with garbage and trash. There is something wrong with that mentality. That's where when I argue, when I fuss, as a mayor, a good mayor would take strong positions, public positions, on these kinds of issues, not to fight for me, but to fight for the people, to fight for the people who live in our community, and to fight for the people who work for our community. Whenever I go to a city council meeting, Randy, it is less than 1% of the time that I will go to a city council meeting and ask for something for the office of mayor or for the mayor proper. It may have happened one time in 12 years or 2 times in 12 years. When we go to the council meeting, we're going to ask for resources that's needed by the building inspector, by code enforcement, by recreation department, those different departments.
Put a pin in that. Okay. You know, I'm thinking about your comrade in Montgomery, Mayor Stephen Reed. He just proposed a record budget higher than any budget that's ever been proposed in the city of Montgomery, and he's been able to finance the police department and the fire department, and they're spending a lot, but they also are bringing in a record amount of money as a result of tourism. They've been able to marry successfully their Civil War history with their civil rights history. And so they have a lot more financial resources to work with to get things done. And I believe he must have the appointment powers for the police chief and all I don't know how Montgomery is organized, but obviously there are some differences. And now I know you've had some issues with the council and that you've been advocating for appointment powers for public safety. Now, what comes back to me is the question to say, well, you had your your interim fire chief is now a convicted felon. And there was something else that happened. Oh, the IT director that you put in place about he's been under investigation. So, one of the arguments is the council saying, well, when the people that you've appointed, look, they're felons. So that's one reason why we think we need to keep the appointment powers. What's your response?
Well, first off, I think it's unfair to even deal with the issue of the fire chief. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because the fire chief was not terminated because of a felony involving the city. This was an accident, an automobile accident that he was involved in Jefferson County. He went to court. He was found convicted of it.
They subpoenaed me for the court case.
He was found guilty, and he's now doing time for that. But it's easy for someone to say, well, that's because of something in city government. That had nothing to do with city government. The issues that they are pointing to as it relates to him in city government was never adjudicated, never really gone forward in the public's eye so people could fully understand the backdrop of that, how all of that took place, what really took place in that situation. That's a whole different matter, okay? Because there is a backstory that the council has some direct involvement in that we just never told, and we probably don't need to even get involved. I don't even want to get involved in it. You know what I'm saying? The other thing is, as it relates to the IT director, the council, members of the council, knew about what was happening in the IT department long before the mayor found out. Now, I'm going to say that again so people can fully understand this. It is in the record that members of the council, including the president of the council, knew about what was happening in the IT department before the mayor found out. The only way I found out is the sheriff picked up the phone as a courtesy and said, Mayor, you really need to know what's going on in that department. And when he told me what was happening, I told him, give me 24 hours. Within 24 hours, because they didn't have all of the evidence to tie it all together, within 24 hours, we had identified the specific documentation that was necessary to prove or disprove what had taken place. That information was turned over to the sheriff, and the sheriff immediately addressed it. And that's why Sheriff Grantham went public and said, no, you're lying on Mayor Perkins. He did exactly what needed to happen. And not only did I do what happened, it would have taken them 6 months to do what we did in 24 hours. So to say that that's a disparaging issue as it relates to the administration, no. When we found out, we dealt with it. I can't control what individual behaviors are, but what I can do is take the appropriate corrective action as mayor once I know. It is unfortunate that the council knew but didn't tell me. That's the thing that people don't know. And I didn't want to talk about that. I didn't come here to talk about that. Rather, I came here to talk about
we're gonna get to that.
Talk about all these great programs.
Yeah, we're gonna
money that's coming in.
We're gonna do that too.
I am glad you threw
I'm bringing
the
it up.
question my way
Right.
so that I could respond to it, because see, there's always a back office story. There's always another piece to this, and it's really embarrassing, because see, all it took was a call. Mayor, want to talk with you and share some things that we perceive to be taking place. Even the allegations with the former fire chief, they heard about something, they got it from a biased source, They invited that biased source into an executive session, did not make the mayor aware at all, accepted what was said to them and acted on it. There's something inherently wrong with what's happening here.
So now, what about? And we're going to get to your platform and why you're, running this time. But the appointment powers and the apparent, or at least the narrative says, the tension that exists between the council and the mayor. These are two of the main complaints that I hear from the street, and I want to give you an opportunity to respond and to address it.
Absolutely. Well, it's simple, Randy. I don't think Mike Reynolds would run this station if someone else outside were to tell him who his disc jockey is going to be, who's going to work directly for him. I can't think of a business person or a person in government who thinks that would be okay for someone to have the responsibility to do something. There was an Arctic freeze.
In the Arctic.
That the mayor cannot spend over $1 unless we bring the transaction back to the council for approval. And then they announced that they're not going to have another meeting in a month. I'm trying to figure out, what are we doing? Listen, we had an air conditioner to go out in the public safety building. You know what Chief Wolfer did? He shut the building down and fixed the air conditioner. We didn't call a council meeting because it was threatening the lives of the employees. That's what he did. Assistant Chief Daly had a fire truck to stop on the road. We had gotten it repaired, and another he had to take it up to get it repaired. It was on the way back, had a trouble with the tire. Do you think he was going to leave a $500,000, a $750,000 truck on the side of the road and not get somebody to spend $600 to fix the tire? No, he went and got he obligated the $600 or whatever it took to get the tire fixed so he could get the truck off the road. These are the kinds of things that happen every day in operations. We had a situation just the other day. The dozer that we need to move debris after we demolish a house had a part to break. That part cost $400. We got 5 houses on the ground that we needed to move. So I'm supposed to wait a month before the council have a meeting to get that part, to move that stuff? Then the public gonna be saying, look, you knock them down and won't even come clean them up. This is how they've had our hands tied in this administration. And yes, any mayor worth his salt is gonna say something about it. Mayor Melton said something about it, but his ultimate response was to lay off 78 people. We've been able to hold people together in place, in space, to get this work done, to do as much as we can. And in some instances, it took getting into some good trouble, Randy. It took getting into some good trouble to actually get things done. That's really what this is about. Typically, if I went up to that council chamber and raised any hell, I would tell my staff before I left office, I'm fixing to go up here and raise some sand now, so I'm not out of control. I need the public to understand and feel me when I begin to talk about this. And I'll go up, do what I need to do in the public, and then I'll come back down, sit down. And see, I know the public don't want to see that, but unless there's some drama, you can't get people's attention. They're not listening, they won't pay attention. And so we're trying to get folks' attention. Look at what's happening to you. When the council decided to zero out the recreation department budget, to zero out the tax and license department where we collect all of our revenue, to zero out the law office, to do all of that, and then to give 2 people $30,000 raise and then a $35,000 raise, and then cut the salaries of several administrative staff. I said no, and I said it loud because it was wrong. And that's what. And any mayor who would not stand firm and defend their staff and defend the position of the city, how dare you say it's okay to zero out the recreation department budget? The only resource that we have for our children that we got left, and you say it's okay to zero it out. No, it's not. And Mayor Perkins is not going to sit idly by and be passive. I'm not going to be passive aggressive about it. No, I'm going to stand 10 toes down, let folk know I don't agree with this, and something needs to be done about it. And so, you know, I tell you what, love my folk to death, I do. But I was disappointed that you and others were not on the microphones and in council chambers raising hell about those actions that they were taking. Because, good Lord, what would that actually do to us? I mean, really.
Well, you implied earlier the bigger problem, the big picture, is that we have a cultural issue.
It is.
In our city, our state, and our nation.
I agree.
And African Americans have a peculiar culture issue. I don't want to get into that this morning because of the time that it would take. And then, you know, on your other hat, as a minister, I'm sure you would agree that we have some spiritual deficiencies that we need to address, or we wouldn't be shooting and stabbing each other in the street every day.
The moral compass of this nation is broken, but it's not just black folks.
Well, it's a lot of folks.
Yeah,
but I kind of zero in on us because we're sitting in the seat of the voting right, the birthplace of the Voting Rights Act, and has been responsible for a lot of progress in this nation. And I don't give us any excuses
let's talk
for not being at that bar.
Let's talk about that, Randy. Let's talk about that. We sit at the seat of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It was passed, blood, people died so that we could get that right to vote. And it should be protected at all costs in our community. Everything that protects one person, one vote, and the right to vote in this nation, we should stand firmly on those positions. But guess what? This governing body is in violation of the one person, one vote provision in the Constitution. Why? Because they refuse to redistrict, knowing full well that our districts are out of sync. I advocated for it, gave them 2 proposals to consider, one showing going from 9 members to a 5-member city council. They rejected that. They had a second one, 8 single-member districts as we are currently configured. The 2 proposals I gave them met all of the federal and state requirements within 5% plus or minus in that deviation in every ward. They rejected it. Why? Because they felt that they would be better suited as incumbents to run under the current districts, regardless of the fact that one ward may be 17% lower in population than it should be, and another ward may be 8 or 9% higher because people migrated from the tornado area to different areas in the community. Well, man, why didn't you challenge it? Well, you told me to stop arguing and stop fighting, so I didn't fuss and fight about it. I said, listen, it's going to be up to the people to defeat them at the polls. This is not listen, folks, I want to be reelected, but I also want a governing body that's going to be right and do right by the people and be fair about this thing. This is real. This is very real. And if the public chooses not to do that, hey, listen.
The public has got to choose. But now I know you also, because I know some of your mentors, most of whom are deceased, like Mr. Sampson Crum Sr. And the Reverend Reese. And I could go down a whole list of folk. And if I were going to...
They raised me.
I understand that. And if I were to get into Mr. Crum's head, he would remind us of the history of Alabama politics. And the way it's structured and its culture. That's right. And so there are no surprises.
Yeah, but before there was an internet, before we had AI, before any of that, Samson Crum was tracking the voting record of legislators.
That's what I'm talking about.
And he was doing it very accurately.
And he was strategic.
Very strategic.
And so we've lost the strategic combativeness. But I don't want to get into that because we don't have enough time. That's a discussion for another day. Whether you win or lose, we're gonna have to do that because we don't have enough students of history. Now let's fast forward and talk about what you have accomplished in this current administration, and why are you running again? Why are you running? Why you want to get beat up some more? What?
I don't want to get beat up anymore. But I do feel that it is important that since we have been able to get the attention of our partners, both public and private, we've been able to get people to come in and invest in our community. I don't know, people, you need to look around town now. and see how many construction projects are going on downtown. You need to look around and see the riverbank stabilization, the voting rights interpreter center, the contractors are back on site, they're doing that work. If you look at what's about to happen on Water Avenue, if you look at buildings on Water Avenue, we're getting that done. The resilience in tourism, multiplex, that project, that architects and engineers have been approved by our council. We're ready to move forward with that. Congresswoman Sewell gave us $4 million to do that. The project out at Memorial Stadium with the track and field and the baseball complex is redone. We are getting a lot done, but it's being done with a lot of external help, and that external help is based on external relationships, and those relationships have been very valuable and key. One of the things that I think would be important is that we not change leaders right now in midstream while we are still in the midst of this recovery. People say, well, why is it taking so long? Well, Tuskegee storm was in 2011, and they're still recovering. Tuscaloosa, still recovering from 2011. Randy, we just got money, and we're still getting resources from Hurricane Zeta from Washington. It will be another 7 or 8 years before we actually close out everything from the tornado. But we have these resources that are coming in right now, and we don't need to. This is a bad time to start talking about changing right now leadership. If you look at what's happening with the Water and Sewer Authority, the investments that we're making in the sewer plant, well over $2 million. We're putting in new wells so that what happened with us with the Arctic freeze, we'll still have a backup water supply. That's what's happening over behind Miller's. People were saying, well, the water's running. Yeah, we have to, there's gonna be millions of gallons of water pumped through that system into the drainage system. It is what we're doing is testing the system now. So all of that's a part of testing the system before we bring it online. These are things that actually are taking place right now. The houses that are coming up out of the ground, not just with NACA, but you see other houses coming up out of the ground in the tornado area. People are still getting money from their insurance claims. There's some folks that are still getting those resources invested back into the community. NACA committed to building 100 houses in our community. Well, they built 10. So that's 10% of a 100 house project that's going to go between Washington Street all the way to the bypass. The last thing I think we need to do right now is to change horses in midstream. There's a list of things, infrastructure projects that we're doing, a list of housing projects, economic development projects. Randy, do you know where we got the money from to do the fiber optics middle mile?
No.
Listen, that when people were pulling the orange cable through the ground, and now you see them doing aerial pulls.
So Yellowhammer?
Yellowhammer,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the Yellowhammer is not a U.S. company. They are a European company.
Mm.
And they use their private dollars. They made a commitment to use their private dollars to build our middle mile infrastructure. Do you know that's $40 million invested in Selma? And they put their base for the entire Black Belt in Selma as a consequence of conversations and commitments that were made to them by your mayor. These are things that people need to really understand and see what's going on.
Well, the narrative, that's where we have a problem with the narrative.
What I don't want to see happen is what happened to us in 2008. People wanted something different. They wanted something new. And they did. We got something different. We got something new. But the question was it better for us? And now, in this same attitude, the same thing, well, we want to do something, we want a different vibe. Well, okay, if you want a different vibe than something that's actually growing and working for your community, what is that? What exactly is that different vibe? And what's going to be the consequence of it? Because the consequence is not a coincidence. The consequence is going to be a direct result of the decisions made by the voters. And so, as your mayor, listen, I try real hard to make sure that people understand where I'm coming from when I deal with these things. But Randy, I'm going to tell you something. About 2.5 years ago, I stopped talking. I really stopped showing up for your show. I just went silent. I stopped talking, and there was a reason for that. The reason I stopped talking was because it seemed as though I was feeling like the masses of people who needed to know and hear what was happening, they were not listening. And if they were listening, they were not responding. But the people who were angry and bitter and had these special agendas, those folk who had these special interest agendas, and they were trying to do things for special interests, they were eating me alive. They were taking the information that I was sharing and using it against me, taking it, going back out and constantly, day in and day out.
Well, let me ask you, do you think any of the problems you've had as mayor is by you not getting the benefit of the doubt, and is there animosity, any animosity?
Yes, absolutely.
In this?
There's a lot of animosity. Look, listen, if James Perkins is in your way, if I'm in the way of you getting money to your buddies, you're gonna have some animosity. You're gonna be resentful of that. If I'm the one standing up and saying, hey, wait a minute, there's something wrong with what we're doing here. We don't need to do this way. But that way that I'm saying is not the right way, if that's gonna favor someone that's going and then adversely affect the community, sure there's gonna be some adversity. I bring your attention to Nehemiah. Nehemiah went back to rebuild the city. He wasn't met with everybody wanting the city to be rebuilt. There were three characters that are specifically mentioned: Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem. And those fellas didn't want the city rebuilt. Why? Because they were benefiting on the broke city. They were benefiting on the backs of the people who were broken. And fixing the city, fixing the system was going to affect their money. Look, everybody's happy that we got cameras citywide. Has anybody ever stopped to look to see how efficient it is? Has anybody ever stopped to see what was the level of efficiency in the decision that was made? Has anybody looked behind the curtain to see, well, why did we bypass the first and second vendors in an evaluation criteria that was established by the council? Why would they bypass the first and second vendors on that list that were approved, qualified vendors, and pick the third vendor? Why was that done? And are we really getting what we need? These are, listen, I know people were angry with me when I was bringing this up, but at the end of the day, it wasn't because James Perkins was going to gain anything. There's no material gain at all for me. Man, let me tell you something. This week, a supporter was walking around with a Perkins t-shirt on, and she was verbally assaulted in a store. And I mean, to the point where police had to get involved. And in that verbal assault, what was said was, he's nothing but a thief. And I know for a fact, I got proof that he's a thief. He ain't done down there stealing. And I didn't get the call, Randy. My wife got the call. And the lady was so upset about it and I walked in and the conversation was going on. I'm saying, okay, wait a minute. I said, just wait a minute. So I called a police officer. I said, listen, there's someone at this store that says that they have absolute unconditional proof that I'm a thief. What I want you to do is I want you to go down there and get a police report from them, because I need to be investigated if I'm that kind of thief. If they know for a fact. But when the police officer got there, the first, I don't know nothing about this. We just talking. I'm just representing this political candidate, and no, I don't know nothing about that.
This is the cultural issue I'm talking about.
This happened this week. This happened this week. So see, a lot of people see this as some kind of game. This is not a game. This is affecting people's lives. And what you don't need, Selma, what we don't need right now is somebody in the mayor's seat that's weak, somebody in the mayor's seat that doesn't have integrity, somebody in the mayor's seat who's not going to stand up and speak boldly when necessary, somebody in the mayor's seat who has not proven that they can go to Washington and sit with presidents and go to New York and sit with CEOs of corporations, and also go to the neighborhood and sit down on the block and sit down and have a conversation with a brother. See, you can't lead people that you're scared of. If you're afraid to go down and sit down and talk to the brothers on the street, you can't lead them. These are the kinds of things that people need to be really thinking about here, because this is where we are in Selma. This is where we are. This is it.
Okay, let me ask you as we begin to close.
Okay. It's too early to close. We need to
Yeah. You're my last interview for the day. Thank goodness. But how important has your team been? I know I see Ms. Wooten everywhere I go, and she's always involved in planning and development. She's doing her job. And Henry Hicks, of course, with Public Works. How important are your directors in these different other positions that you do have appointment powers for?
Randy, I speak a lot in the present tense because my goal is to deflect all of the arrows away from them. I'm their shield. That's how I see a big portion of my job and responsibility. When people start talking about the performance of the team, I become the deflector. If I have a problem with their performance, I deal with them privately in the office, but I don't go out and have on social media and be attacking their performance, and I don't allow other people to do it without being challenged. But I will tell you something. When it comes down to the team that's working in city government, I'll put them up against anybody because they do their work underpaid. I'm talking our middle management team. I'm talking about from the public buildings director, the planning and development, our building inspector, these folk, the recreation department, all of these departments, all of them, and y'all, I can't name all of you because I don't have time. Randy told me out of time. But all of them are working in some very hostile environments. It has to be a hostile environment. If the city attorney has to file something in court to stop the council from harassing the employees, this is real. I mean, the city attorney had to file something to stop them from reaching over and attacking staff. I'm not making this. This is great drama, but I'm not making this.
No, I would say only in Selma, but there's some place. Birmingham is having some issues similar.
It's not just in Selma,
right?
But this, like you said earlier, this is where we had to set our buckets down,
right?
And so this is the responsibility that we have to clean this up, to deal with it as best we can, because really, a lot of people look at Selma and they model their solutions based on Selma.
I'll say this, and I'm not, and this is not, I'm not making an endorsement or passing judgment, but I remember when Mayor Evans was in the midst of when the market dropped out of the housing market in 2007 or 8, and he had to make some tough decisions, and he cut temporarily everybody's pay by 12%, and he was able to navigate through some very difficult times. In like manner, you've had Hurricane Zeta, the freezing of the water, almost losing the water system, and the January 12th tornadoes. So you've helped navigate through some difficult times. And when you first were elected, I ran against you, and I was supposed to be giving you a grade. I never did it, and I'm not going to do it now. Look, but I will say that I give you credit for having navigated through this. But there are a lot of people who everybody has a different political thing. So I just said that to say that, yeah, we are at a critical point, and I hate the culture that has developed when we can't agree to disagree, and when we become so passionate in whether we're supporting a candidate or an issue that we almost come to blows or start making personal attacks. Then I need to check myself.
Yeah.
I need to see what's going on with me. Yeah. The problem is starting with me, and we got a long way to go. That being said, we've gone over, and we had a rough start. The gremlins something didn't want you to get your message out this morning. I don't know what that is, but God is good. All what's been done anyway. So that being said, this is your time to say whatever you'd like to say to our audience.
Well, it's been an honor to serve as mayor for the time that I have served. I desire to continue so that we can maintain a level of continuity in the work that's actually being done now. There is a transition plan. I do recognize I'm in the fourth quarter of this game, and I do see a way forward for Selma to be able to continue the progress absent James Perkins. And I see that clearly. I love the idea and some of these candidates that are running for councils. I like their vision. I've been listening to them, and I feel very confident that the mayor, whomever it is, hopefully it will be me, and those individuals can get together, work together, so that I will have a group of people around me as mayor and working with the administrative team that we can pass this institutional knowledge and these relationships too, so that Selma can continue its growth and development. I do have a very growth model for governance. I think that we have spent a lot of time planning to remain poor and underdeveloped, and we have not done a good job in positioning our community to grow. We do have enough money to keep us where we are. We do not have enough money to fund growth. And if we continue to go as we're going, we will stay where we are. We will be understaffed. We will have our staff underpaid. We will continue to lose people. This is what we really need to be focusing on, and that is having a governing body, mayor, council, judicial, that's willing to think progressive and move progressively into our future. I'm hoping that on the 26th of August, this coming Tuesday, that the public will see that and that you will vote for people who are willing to work together. You know, it's really been amazing to me. The language I've been hearing, 90% of the things that the mayor has brought forward are being approved by council. I'm hearing all of this, but people don't realize if you lower the threshold that the mayor can actually make decisions, you increase the number of transactions that have to go before council. And most of those transactions that go before council are routine transactions anyway, thereby increasing the percentage of transactions that's going to be approved. See, there's a game here. I understand the game. You hadn't thought about it that way, Randy. You smiled and laughed because you hadn't thought about that. But see, I just want people to understand that, you know, it started $5,000, now $1. Yeah, we improving everything.
But now they do say if the dollar is temporary.
Yeah, well, it's temporary during election to bump up the percentages. Listen, listen, but at the same time, it has an adverse effect on operations. And these are the kinds of political games that are being played, but it's actually affecting the lives of people in very real ways. And so I'm asking people, let's listen, go vote your conscience, vote your conviction, but go out and vote. And hopefully, when we get up on Wednesday morning, you would have made the right decision. And we will be moving forward the right way.
Well, let's hope we move forward
All
the right way. That's certainly we certainly need to do that.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor Perkins, for coming in. You came in. This is the first time you've been in since COVID started.
Yeah.
And that's one of the main reasons why we started going virtual.
That's right.
Because of that. I believe you had it once, didn't you?
A couple of times.
You couple of times. You see, dealing with the public, you don't have much of a choice.
That's
So
right.
I hear you.
That's
Well,
right.
thank you so much. Thank you for listening. That is going to do it for us today. We've gone over there. I earned my pay today. Yeah. Well, that's another story, and it's not about earning pay. This is about the community.
Hey, I love you.
It's not about me.
Love you, Selma. Listen, I'm not angry. I'm passionate, but not angry. Love you, man.
All right.
That's it. Finances, I was prepared in my rookie year, if you will, to do what I was advocating and offering to the citizens. Served as mayor.